I think going into this clay season, there's going to be a lot to expect from both Jannik Sinner and Iga Swiatek, one who hasn't played for 3 months, and this going in, I feel like in a way in a better form because of how just poorly and how unexpectedly his opponents played throughout Miami and Indian Wells. I mean, if you consider his main opponents, Carlos Alcaraz, Alexander Zverev, they haven't played that great, and I feel like Jannik Sinner is really benefiting from that, which I think is really kind of interesting because he hasn't played, but he's the one that's actually benefiting. And for the women's side, I feel like Iga has just been struggling a lot mentally and physically. I feel like mentally, she really wants to be on top of the game that she sometimes forgets about just how grateful she should be for being a part of the tennis tour. And I feel like that's a really toxic mindset to be in, and especially in Roland Garros where she is the defending champion and everyone expects her to win. I feel like if she loses, it's going to be a really tough it's going to take a really big chunk of her mental state from her, because I feel like I just feel like everyone expects her to win. So yeah. Welcome, tennis fans, to Tennis Traverse, Exploring the Game, the podcast that delves into the heart of the tennis world. I'm your host, Ivy Zhang, and in today's episode, we'll be talking about some future predictions for the upcoming clay swing. So let's get right into it. I want to start off by reacting to the Miami Open Finals. So I actually predicted it wrong, where I thought Novak Djokovic will be able to beat whoever he's playing against, but actually Jakub Mensik managed to sort of cause an upset to Novak Djokovic with a score of 7-4 and 7-4, 2 straight sets and tiebreak. And I don't know, I feel like he's a player that's really able to play it out and just to stay with Novak, and I feel like that's something a lot of players struggles to do. And I know Novak is his idol, and I feel like normally when you play against someone you looked up to, this dynamic is really easy to go wrong because obviously you've looked up to them and that you've studied them, and that's the tennis player you've become by studying them, and now you're playing against them, especially at such a big stage. And I feel like the biggest moment at his in his career so far. But I feel like he performed well. I feel like he really composed himself, and he performed in a way he anticipated a lot of Novak's shots, and I feel like you could really tell that he looked up to Novak just from the way he played. But yeah, I was really proud of him, and I think this was a great performance from him. I also will leave a link to this match if you guys are interested in checking out the highlights. And for the other match, Sabalenka versus Pegula, not that much to say. I feel like Sabalenka is just really straightforward with this win. I feel like she always is, even though, I feel like she struggled a little this season after losing that Australian Open, because she was chasing a three-peat, and it's really hard to accomplish something like this three-peat because you have to win 2 Grand Slams and then win the third one. It's not like you can just go into a tournament and get a three-peat. You have to make sure to win the 2 in the previous 2 years, and that's such a huge challenge. And I feel like her motivation maybe dipped a little bit after that. I feel like she was just a little bit caught off guard by how well Madison Keys played, and in the Middle East, even though she's known for not doing particularly well there, I still thought she played maybe just not with as much fight and not with as much motivation as she did before Australia and during Australia. And in Indian Wells, she did make it to the finals, and she is still a great player, but I just feel like after that incredible performance the first set and in the final against Andreeva, the deciding set was a little bit I don't know the word. It was a little bit lackluster for me, because I feel like Sabalenka just didn't have a lot of fight left in her. Like, she did try to fight for every ball, but I feel like she's someone that likes to go out with like a bang. Like, she really tries a lot to get a title, and she's such a fighter that she's going to try to chase down every ball and just get to every ball. But I feel like this didn't happen against Andreeva. But however, I feel like she totally found herself in Miami, and I know the conditions are different, but I think for her to beat Jessica Pegula with a score of 7-5 and 6-2 is pretty convincing from her, because although Pegula do not have a great record against Sabalenka, Pegula has been in great form and has beaten some pretty top performers over like the course of Miami, and I think this just at least shows to me that she still have a lot of fight left in her, and I think Iga will really benefit from learning from Sabalenka. I don't know, I just feel like Iga is at a place where all she cares about is like the ranking points and just being number one, but instead I feel like Sabalenka is truly there and she thrives being at the top. She really is happy being where she is, and she's grateful, and I think that really translates throughout the games. And I think that's all I want to talk about for Miami. Now I'm just going to shift gears a little and talk about the clay season. So I want to start off talking about the women's side. I think I sort of touched on this briefly in the last episode, but I always have a spot for Iga, because Iga is such a great player, especially on clay. Despite this year being not that good, I still think if she's on clay, if she's playing in Roland Garros, she's going to win. It's sort of the similar deal with Rafael Nadal, where I thought, okay, he's playing, like even last year where it was literally his last tournament, I still thought he could have like won that thing or just go really far, just because of how the surface is just perfect for him and the history he has in Paris. And I sort of feel that same way with Iga. I know Iga doesn't have as much accomplishments there compared to Rafa Nadal, obviously, but I don't know. Even though I feel like she didn't perform well, I still think she's my title favorite. However, I do think this year there are a lot more players who have a chance of beating her. Last year, Naomi Osaka, who isn't a clay court player at all, I would call her a hard court specialist, came pretty close to beating Iga. I think this year, Andreeva, Sabalenka all have a chance of just challenging Iga just a little bit. And I feel like just other tournaments, for example, Madrid and Rome, I think even though Iga is dominant in those as well, I do think Sabalenka is going to win at least one of them, because I feel like she's a player that's open to winning a lot of titles, I guess. Like, I feel like she has an open mind of playing and training on all surfaces, and I feel like, I don't know, I think she played a pretty close match with Iga last year, I believe, and I think this year's her year. Maybe just winning that one title in Madrid or Rome will give her a little bit more confidence going in to the French Open, and I think that will translate. And there's just so many players that I feel like has peaked. Like I mentioned, Andreeva, who is an amazing clay court player as well, or just even, let's say Emma Navarro, for example. I know she hasn't posed a large threat. Or even, we can say Zheng Qingwen, because she's the only player that actually beat Iga last year on the French Open grounds during the Olympics. And I know the Olympics is so different from the French Open. However, they're both at the same venue, and they use the same surface, the exact same surface. And I feel like both Zheng's and Iga's year hasn't been the best, but I think after that loss to Zheng, Iga just hasn't been finding her form, and personally, I think if she's able to win a big title before, it's going to really boost her confidence, because she hasn't won a title since that loss, and I feel like that really took a big mental toll on her, and I hope she comes back and get a title. Okay, now we're going to take a little break and we'll come back and talk about the men's predictions. Okay, welcome back. We'll now shift gears to talk about the men's side. I feel like going in, honestly, the biggest winner, as I mentioned in my intro, is Jannik Sinner, because even though I feel like Zverev strived to have a good start, like, for example, he tried to get more points by participating in the the clay swing before the hard courts, I still think that like it was completely unexpected. I mean, he did say that it was just like practice and just to get more ranking points. I still think his goal was to get a title, and he said that he isn't good coming in like going straight to like those big tournaments, and I feel like that's like giving him preparation for those. However, just I thought that he was going to maybe go deeper in Indian Wells and Miami, and that's completely not what happened. Even though in Miami he did make it further, I still think that I don't think he's going into this clay season with that high of an expectation, because frankly he just isn't that good this year. I think on the other hand, players like Stefanos Tsitsipas, Rune, they've had an okay start. I mean, Steph did get a title after he switched his racket, and he's playing good. And his next clay tournament that's coming up is Monte Carlo, which is just such a good tournament for him. He absolutely adores the conditions there, and I think that's really going to help him in getting more wins. And I'm not sure if he is going to go far in Roland Garros, because I feel like he's one of those players that you would expect an upset against, but I feel like he has a really good chance at winning Monte Carlo. Another player I do want to talk about is Matteo Berrettini. He's been plagued by injury for the past few years, but this year he's back, and I think he's great. I really do think he is amazing, and I feel like the clay will suit him better and in a way hide his weakness, which is his backhand. I think everyone who watches tennis knows that his weakness is his backhand, and his forehand is just like a complete monster. And I feel like the clay court is going to help him a little bit, just to slow down or just to hide his backhand and just to neutralize the shots. So I think, I do think he is going to go far in Monte Carlo as well. Other players I want to talk about, Casper Ruud. The season hasn't been as great as he would have liked to, I think. I think his last season started off way better, and he sort of have a similar tone for me as Lorenzo Musetti, who I feel like didn't expected more from their season so far. I know Musetti is different because he's been dealing with injuries, but his performance in Miami really told me that, okay, this isn't the Musetti I was expecting, because last year he made it really far. He got a bronze medal at the Olympics, and he went to the semifinals of Wimbledon. And I know hard court is a Musetti's thing, but now it's a clay court season, and I just really hope his performance from last year will carry out to this year. So yeah, I think that's all, and I want to talk about Djokovic for a little bit before wrapping it up. I think Djokovic is an unknown prospect. I truly do think he have a great chance at winning Roland Garros, like the greatest chance compared to the other Grand Slams, because I feel like Carlos is going to dominate Wimbledon, and then the US Open, I just don't think he performs that well there. So I think his only chance now is Roland Garros, and it will be a great 100th title because it's a Grand Slam. And I think he's going to have to battle it out because he's not going to be one of the top seeds. And if he's not going to be one of the top seeds, he's going to face pretty challenging players early on. And I'm not sure how well his body will be able to hold up. But I think he have a great chance because if you look at the top seeds, Jannik Sinner, we don't know how he's like. Maybe he's coming out perfect. He's going to beat Novak Djokovic. Or maybe because he hasn't played and he lacked practice, Djokovic is going to beat him. So we don't know about Jannik Sinner because we haven't seen him play. Carlos Alcaraz, I don't know what he's doing. I feel like he's just been not gaining enough confidence, and I just don't think it's helping him at all. I think he's having these really poor performances, and I hope he doesn't perform like that in a Grand Slam, and he normally doesn't, but that performance against Baltic Zenskop last year scared me a little. Hope that never happens. I mean, Baltic played great, but come on, it's Carlos Alcaraz. Next one is, we'll just say Alexander Zverev. Zverev has not been great. So in my mind, I think that, I just think Novak really have a chance of going far. So I guess that's all for today's episode. I really hope you guys enjoyed. This one's a short one, but if you guys want to check out more tennis, there is a tennis tournament going on. I think by the time my episode comes out, it would have ended in Charleston, and it's a women's clay court tournament. A lot of great players are playing that, so if you guys want to go search up the highlights, feel free to do that. But yeah, I think that's all for today's episode. If you like this episode and you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. If you're listening on other streaming platforms, please rate my show. And if you guys haven't followed me on social medias, you should. It's at Tennis Traverse. That is at Tennis Traverse on Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, I think that's all for today. I'll see you guys next week.